We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Let's go, everyone. Going to be doing a live best ball draft during this live stream. Very excited to get going. Only two more spots to fill. Austin, Yarjma, how is it going? Can you guys hear me okay on YouTube? I'm trying out a slightly different audio setup. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm hoping that the TikTok live stream internet is okay as well during this. We will see. It's decent sound. Austin, we can settle for decent sound because we are going to be having a good time on this live stream. Thielen or Henderson? Austin, you're coming right out of the gates with a pretty tough question. And honestly, the Darrell Henderson hype, I never thought that we would be back to a point where people are more hyped up about Darrell Henderson than me, the person who had him ranked number one in his class, and absolutely looking back, stacked running back class. I had Darrell Henderson before the draft ranked number one in that class. Obviously, that's not right. But he does have a 3-down skill set. He has virtually zero competition. So the upside is definitely there for Darrell Henderson. I absolutely would go with Darrell Henderson. What is going on? I see some WalterPicks accounts in the TikTok live stream. We are live on YouTube and TikTok right now. I'm going to be doing a live best ball draft. What is going on? DF Fluffy 45. Thanks for tuning in. We're live on YouTube and TikTok. And if you come to the YouTube stream, I was just given the 5th overall pick, one of my favorite picks in fantasy football this year. I love this new design from Underdog, by the way. This is pretty exciting. I haven't seen this yet. But we have the 5th pick in this draft, and it's starting, literally just started right now. Who do you pick Tyreek Hill over? This is a good question. And I really have started to lean more and more towards the elite running back draft strategy where I'm getting at least 1 or 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds as I start to shift my mindset into the season-long mindset, which is just weeks away, some people even drafting now. It's hard for me to draft Tyreek Hill over Austin Eckler. It's hard for me to draft Tyreek Hill over Saquon Barkley. It's even hard for me to draft him over Aaron Jones. But I could understand you drafting him over all of those guys. All right, I'm on the clock here at 5th overall. Alvin Kamara is sitting there. Travis Kelce is sitting there. The draft went McCaffrey, Cook, Henry, Elliott. And I want to take Alvin Kamara with this pick. And I'm going to. The case for Alvin Kamara, guys, the thing about Alvin Kamara, and I understand the quarterback concerns regarding Alvin Kamara, Jameis Winston is looking like 50-50. Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, I honestly could see a situation where we see both of them play in every game this season. That is not out of the question for Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. But with Alvin Kamara and the Michael Thomas injury now, the Michael Thomas injury is a huge, huge deal for Alvin Kamara. Guys, he was a wide receiver 1. Take away his running stats. You take away his rushing stats. He was a wide receiver 1, top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football when Michael Thomas did not play last year. He was literally the leading receiver for the Saints, a team that, by the way, added 0 receivers this offseason. It's going to be him and Adam Troutman. They have to. They have to send at least 6 targets Alvin Kamara's way every single game, or they're just going to get destroyed. So I went with Alvin Kamara 5th overall. I think I would take him 4th overall. I think that I'm starting to, though, get very, very excited about the back end of drafts. I know I haven't been live in a while. Someone says, WalterPicks looks amazing, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. We just redesigned the entire WalterPicks app. You can see a screenshot behind me. TJ Hawkinson versus Kyle Pitts. And honestly, the more I've been thinking about TJ Hawkinson and Kyle Pitts, 2 tight ends I've drafted a lot of. I've done about 250 drafts already, guys, because I've been drafting for months because I do best ball drafts. That's what I'm doing live on YouTube right now, by the way. If you want to follow along with the draft board, you can come to our YouTube channel at WalterPicks. But TJ Hawkinson's going a full 2 rounds after Kyle Pitts. So I think Kyle Pitts does, to me, have a little bit higher upside than TJ Hawkinson, but you can definitely argue TJ Hawkinson is actually a safer pick in fantasy football than Kyle Pitts. And then when you think about the fact that TJ Hawkinson is going a full 2 rounds later, you almost have to wait for TJ Hawkinson. You have to wait for him. I've been drafting Kyle Pitts in the 4th and 5th rounds. Late 4th, early 5th round. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think there's a lot of hype around Kyle Pitts, but for good reason. What's the reason? He's basically the wide receiver 2 for the Atlanta Falcons. So, I feel pretty good about that being a safe role in one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the NFL with no good running game. But TJ Hawkinson's going to lead the Lions in targets this season. All right, I'm back on the clock here. DK Metcalf is available, but I think I'm going to go the hyper-fragile running back approach that I've been doing for most of these best ball drafts. We're going to see if it ends up working out. I will get back to some of the comments in the chat, I promise. So far in this draft, I had the 5th overall pick. I went Alvin Kamara in the 1st round, Naji Harris in the 2nd round. Naji Harris is going later and later in drafts. I'm not really sure why he's going later and later in drafts. We've known all along for the past few months the offensive line for the Steelers is not good. It is the clear weakness of the Steelers. It was last year too. It was the clear weakness last year, and they just didn't do much to address it. In fact, they might have gotten worse. There's a chance they get better too, because they did deal with a bunch of injuries on the offensive line last year. Regardless, though, guys, Naji Harris has a legitimate path to 300 carries or more, 300 plus carries, which is why I feel pretty comfortable taking him in the 2nd round, especially with these best ball drafts. I'm probably only going to draft 3 or 4 running backs on this whole team. Anyone else feel like Naji is going to be a complete stud? Yeah, I do. Did you pay for this draft? Yes, I did. This is a real draft. I don't do mock drafts. I do real drafts. This is a $5 draft in the Puppy Tournament on Underdog. By the way, if you use code Walter, if you sign up for Underdog and you've never signed up for Underdog before, and you just type in the code Walter when you sign up, you'll get a free $25 if you on your first deposit. So you can deposit $5, you'll get a free $25. That means 6 drafts. 6 drafts. They're $5 each right now in the Puppy 2, which I will be trying to max out in. I'm close to being able to max out all 3 of the big tournaments on Underdog, which is exciting. All right, this time around, I'm definitely going to go wide receiver. Allen Robinson versus Amari Cooper. This is a decision I've had to make so many times. And I feel like people are really, really starting to sleep on Amari Cooper. I'm going to take Allen Robinson with this pick because I think Allen Robinson is going to be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with this season. And as soon as Justin Fields wins the starting job, I think that's only going to help him. Aguchi, how's it going, man? But Amari Cooper, guys, don't sleep on Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper balled out last season with Dak Prescott. I went back and watched all 5 of the Dak Prescott games from last season. And really, it was like 4.5 before he was injured. And Amari Cooper was his #1 target in those games. CeeDee Lamb is now consistently being drafted ahead of Amari Cooper. And I love CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is going to be this year's Calvin Ridley. If there's anyone that's going to be this year's Calvin Ridley, it is CeeDee Lamb. But Amari Cooper has a very similar floor and a very similar ceiling to CeeDee Lamb, and you're getting him like 10 picks later. So I absolutely love Amari Cooper. Yeah, he's dealing with some slight injuries, but everything that I have read said he's going to be even potentially playing in one of the preseason games. And if I see that he's playing in one of the preseason games, these guys are not going to be playing in the preseason games if they're not at full health. So I do think, I know Amari Cooper continues to fall due to the injury. We're taking the discount. And some people are saying, Amari Cooper gets hurt too much. Injury prone. The injury prone label gets tossed around a lot this time of year. Well, let's take a look. In the last 2 seasons, Amari Cooper has played all 32 games. It's 2 straight seasons. 16 games. So I don't know how you could label him as injury prone. With that being said, and honestly, I want to talk about injuries just for a second here. I'll switch back to the draft mode so you guys can see, watching live on YouTube, the draft that I'm doing right now. And honestly, the best ball ADP and like what you're seeing and who's being taken in this best ball draft, which was a $5 draft, but I could win up to $300,000 if I come in first place. This is actually pretty similar to what you'll see in your redraft league. So if you want to come to the YouTube stream, guys, I'm literally displaying an actual real money draft. You can see the draft board in live time. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. And I had the 5th overall pick. I started with Alvin Kamara, Naji Harris, Allen Robinson. Feeling pretty good about the team so far. But I do want to talk a little bit about injuries because it comes up a lot and it is important for fantasy football. I want to talk a little bit about my rationale and how I approach injuries in this game, especially with drafts. And the way that I think about it is this. Football is the most injury-prone sport in the world, especially the running back position. Every single running back, there's over a 50% chance they get hurt. And there's like a 25% plus chance they get significantly hurt. It's just the position that they play. It's a tough position. So if Saquon Barkley, for example, is a guy coming off an ACL injury, does he have a slightly increased risk of injury? Yeah, he does. But every running back has such a high risk of injury that it's not worth including in your analysis. Just take the best players, hope your players don't get hurt. Don't pretend like you know which players are going to get hurt. You don't know which guys are going to get hurt. That being said, you should avoid players that are already injured. And you could argue Saquon Barkley's in this category. I wouldn't, because I think he's close to being 100%, and he didn't recently get injured. But you don't want to draft guys that are already injured. Guys like Michael Thomas. I want nothing to do with Michael Thomas. I was drafting Michael Thomas months ago in the 3rd round consistently. Now I want absolutely nothing to do with Michael Thomas because he's going to be out at least 5 weeks, if not more. Injuries are going to find your team. Don't find the injuries, but also don't pretend like you know who's going to get injured. If they're healthy now, just trust that they can stay healthy because you don't know which guys are going to get hurt. All right, there's my rant on injuries. I hope that made sense. I think it makes sense. I know there's a lot of different injury analysis out there, but those are my 2 cents on the injuries. And by the way, I'm in this live draft right now. We're seeing in the last, 10 picks, we've seen 9 wide receivers go off the board. The wide receivers in fantasy drafts are flying up draft boards. It's absolutely insane. I promise I will get to some of the questions in the chat as they come up. But I want to try to grab as many receivers as I can in rounds 3 through 6. Because after round 6, there is a pretty steep drop-off in the wide receiver pool. Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, DJ Moore. These are all guys going in the end of the 3rd round, beginning of the 4th round now. Patrick Mahomes, the first quarterback off the board, just went in the 4th round. I feel like in the average season-long league, he's going to go earlier than that. All right, I am back on the clock now. I honestly am very intrigued by Darrell Henderson. It feels a little early in the 4th round for him. And I like T. Higgins a lot too. Yeah, I'm going to go with T. Higgins instead. I'm going to go with T. Higgins here. And Jamar Chase, apparently, by the way, Jamar Chase is going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL. There's not a doubt. The question is Jamar Chase going to be good or is he going to be great? That's really the debate for me about Jamar Chase. I honestly think almost every other rookie wide receiver, except for Devonta Smith, in my opinion, has a chance to be bad just because rookies have a very wide range of outcomes. But Jamar Chase is an absolute baller. That being said, the training camp reports about Jamar Chase have not been fantastic. They've been far less than fantastic. Thoughts on Ayuk this year? I do have thoughts on Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka, and I think he's going to ball out. The question is the volume going to be there for Ayuk? We know he's insanely efficient. The whole 49ers offense is insanely efficient. That's the problem. George Kittle, the best yards after the catch tight end in the NFL. We have Deebo Samuel, a very good after the catch receiver. And if Trey Lance wins the starting job, I can't say this enough, not if, when Trey Lance wins the starting quarterback job, I don't think it's going to boost the receivers at all in fantasy. You want Trey Lance. You don't want the receivers. You don't want George Kittle. You don't want Deebo Samuel. You don't want Brandon Ayuka, the bazooka. These are not guys that are going to be good for your fantasy teams once Trey Lance takes over. And I still think they will have some upside. I'm deciding right now between, I think I'm honestly going to go with Travis Etienne here over Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. I drafted 3 running backs. I might draft one more late because I have these bye weeks, but I will only draft one more running back if I do draft one. So far, I had the 5th overall pick. Guys, we're live on YouTube right now doing a live best ball draft. A $5 real league. I don't do mock drafts. I do real drafts. And you got to go subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit that subscribe button. It takes you 2 seconds. It helps me out a ton. I really do appreciate it. But if you come to the YouTube stream, we're live right now on YouTube, you can literally see a live real draft happening with real money on the line in this live stream. You're seeing the draft board live. I had the 5th overall pick. So far, my squad is Alvin Kamara with my 1st pick, Najee Harris with my 2nd pick, Allen Robinson and T. Higgins with my 3rd and 4th pick, Travis Etienne with my 5th pick. I'm loving Travis Etienne. I'm loving him, and I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, and I probably won't know if I'm saying his name correctly for a really long time because I don't listen to NFL games with the sound on. But I do think Travis Etienne has absolutely astronomical league-winning upside, and I am all over him in the 5th round. What's the best spot to draft in a 10-man league? I do think my favorite pick in fantasy football, once again this season, is the 1st overall pick. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, take a look at this start that I had with the 1st overall pick. Look at this draft. Christian McCaffrey, the single biggest advantage you can get in fantasy football. There's no bigger advantage than Christian McCaffrey. None. Zero. It's honestly not even close. Christian McCaffrey had the 2nd best fantasy football season of all time 2 years ago, and he was like 15 points shy of the best season ever. You got to take him 1st overall. There's no discussion. I won't even talk about it anymore. But the best part about the 1st overall pick is look what's here for you. In the 2nd and 3rd round, you don't need to draft another running back. The rest of the draft, you have 3 workhorse running backs: McCaffrey, Naji Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And these guys won't always be there. This is a 12-man league, by the way. 12-man, half PPR league. I'm getting them a little bit after their average draft position, you can see if you're watching live on TikTok. But absolutely insane. I don't think this team would lose if they stay healthy. I really don't. And even if one of them got hurt, I would still have 2 workhorse running backs. I'm still doing this draft. This was in a slow draft, so it's still going on. But I'll definitely update everyone how this goes. How do you recommend me getting into football? Well, step 1, join a fantasy football league, because there's no better way to watch football than rooting for your fantasy football team. Step 2, download the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. The WalterPicks app, I've been building it over the last 2.5 years. I've spent literally tens of thousands of hours of my life building the WalterPicks app, and it leverages machine learning, artificial intelligence, to let anyone, even if it's your first year ever playing fantasy football, you can win your league if you use this app. So download the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. I do appreciate it. Do you feel like reaching for Waller in the 3rd or taking a wide receiver? I don't think getting Darren Waller in the 3rd round is a reach. I would take Darren Waller in the back end of a 2nd round in a 12-man league. Darren Waller, there's only 2 tight ends last season that had at least 5 targets, and every single game except for 1. And Darren Waller and Travis Kelce, those were the 2 tight ends. That's it. Darren Waller is dealing with a small injury right now, though. That is concerning. I hope he is fully healthy by the time the season starts. Whoever in your draft can't pick at all of Harris and Clyde. Yeah, I agree. But this was a very real league. $25 on the line in this league. So there were real drafters in this league. I think I'm going to take Kyler Murray with this pick, guys. Kyler Murray apparently is 100% fully healthy. He was on pace to be the quarterback 1 last season, and then he got shoulder injury. And now he has better weapons than he did before. He's even playing Friday night. Like, that report that he's playing Friday night, these are the best reports. When I'm looking and sifting through training camp news, almost all of it is completely useless. I don't care about the N'Keal Harry highlight catches. I do not care about Miles Sanders not getting all of the first team reps. Like, we know Miles Sanders is going to be the starting running back for the Eagles, and he's going to get at least 60% of the workload. I don't care about a lot of the buzz about training camp. What I do care about is that guys are fully healthy, and if they're playing in the preseason game, never mind the first preseason game, that is a fantastic sign that they are fully healthy. The fact that Kyler Murray is playing in his first preseason game is I love it. I absolutely love it. I just got Kyler Murray in the 6th round. Kyler Murray can finish as the number 1 overall quarterback. Sleeper or underdog? Underdog is where I'm doing the best ball drafts. I think Sleeper is the best place for season-long leagues and dynasty leagues in general. The Sleeper platform, honestly, is fantastic. But Underdog is the best place to do your best ball drafts. And guys, if you've never done a draft on Underdog before, and you sign up and you use code Walter, we just started a partnership with Underdog. And if you use the code Walter, WALTER, when you first sign up, you will get a free $25 to use. If you just deposit $5, you'll get a free $25. And if you spend up to $100, if you don't enjoy your experience on Underdog, they say they will give you a full refund. So you could even go draft, maybe you absolutely hate it, you can get your money back too. It's a great deal. So use code Walter when you sign up on the Underdog app, and you will see me in these draft rooms. I'm going to max out all of these tournaments. All right, I'm on the clock here. I will get back to some of your questions, I absolutely promise, as this draft starts to near towards the end. Let's see. I think I'm going to have to go DJ Chark. I don't love the options that were there. I have Travis Etienne and DJ Chark, which makes me want to get Trevor Lawrence later in this draft to complete this stack. I think it's actually a pretty intriguing stack because the reason I'm drafting Travis Etienne is the receiving upside. Like, that's the whole reason I'm drafting Travis Etienne. I'll scroll down. Sorry if you couldn't see this live draft. How much money have you spent on drafts this year, Zeke? Man, you gotta go there. Zeke, I'm already reaching my max capacity of fantasy spend this season. But I truly believe, and I have very strong beliefs about fantasy football, and I believe there's certain edges to be had in this game that I can rationalize my spending on fantasy football because I expect a positive return. I expect a return on investment. Be sure to like the live stream if you're joining. Thank you, Dylan. I appreciate that. And 2 years ago, I had an 80% ROI, which means return on investment, which means every dollar I spent, I made $1.80 back. Pretty good. Pretty good for any investment. Last season, I had like a minus 10% ROI. I'm very transparent, by the way, with my leagues. I didn't win any of my leagues. Last year, I won like 5 of them. The year before, because I was all in on Lamar Jackson. Last year, I was all in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I am again this season for the same reasons. But I do believe I have a lot of upside, and I want to win first place in one of these tournaments. I want to win first place. I want that $1 million prize. That's what I'm going for. So I think I'm up to probably close to 10K. Probably close to 10K this season just on best ball drafts. I think I'm closing in on that. You have an echo, brother. Hopefully it's not too bad. Anyone else noticing an echo? You can let me know. What do you think of Ryan Tannehill? I think Ryan Tannehill has absolutely insane upside this season if Julio Jones is healthy. And the fact that Julio Jones is already resting is a little bit concerning for me. That he's already not like at full speed yet all offseason to get healthy. He's already dealing with soft tissue issues. Audio is pretty bad. Oh no, this is the worst. This is the worst on the YouTube streams because it's not an easy fix. Let's take a look. Let's see if I can fix this. Can you hear me better now? Is this better? YouTube stream. Is this a better audio experience for you? Michael Buetti, let me know. Sam, will you still be putting out player prop picks? Yeah, of course. And during the live streams during the season, of course we will have one free prop pick every single live stream. Every Sunday morning, we went, I think the final number last season was like 15 for 18. We went like 15 out of 18 with the free prop picks. It was absolutely insane. So every Sunday morning, I'll do a live stream leading up to 1 o'clock from basically like when I wake up to 1 o'clock. And I will be live and giving away a free prop pick during that live stream, my most confident pick of the day. But if you subscribe to the WalterPicks app, you'll get at least 5 picks every single week. We've had over 60% accuracy on those picks for 3 straight seasons now. Let me hop in one of these drafts. I'll be doing another one very soon if you want to try to hop in. I think I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks with this pick. Brandon Cooks is a guy that one of the few guys. Brian, how's it going? Talk to me nice about Josh Jacobs, Sam. Josh Jacobs, I'm going to be releasing my do not draft list. Probably in the next week or so. I like to try to get all of my main advice out now because people are drafting now and will be drafting up through the next 3 weeks. But the list obviously could change as we get closer to the season. But Brian, I think Josh Jacobs could be closer to my do not draft list than anything else. So I'm sorry, I don't think I can talk great about Josh Jacobs for you, but I could be totally wrong. And honestly, the goal of the do not draft list is to avoid busts. It doesn't mean some of those guys won't go off. I'm pretty sure last year on my do not draft list, I had guys like Aaron Jones, for example, that did very, very well. But I also did successfully avoid a lot of absolute craters, like James Conner, who's being picked in the 3rd round of fantasy drafts last season. Guys like Kenyon Drake, who also were being picked in the 4th round of fantasy drafts last season. Thoughts on Saquon? Yeah, listen, Saquon Barkley is a guy that I just know. I haven't done any of my season-long drafts yet. I'm doing a live best ball draft on YouTube right now. But Saquon Barkley is a guy that I just know I'm going to end up drafting in so many of my home season-long leagues. He's going to be on all of those teams because if he's available at any time after pick 7, I'm going to very strongly considering taking Saquon Barkley. And you see with with the WalterPicks who do I draft comparison behind me on my TikTok background right now, I love Austin Eckler. I'm taking Austin Eckler with a top 10 pick in every fantasy football format. But Saquon Barkley has a higher ceiling than Austin Eckler. All right, I'm back on the clock here. I don't have a tight end yet, so I'm definitely going to go tight end here. I'm honestly a pretty big believer in there's a point of no return with the tight ends this season where, like, if you do not get a tight end early in your draft I'm in round 9 right now, you're pretty much screwed, and you should probably wait until the very, very end of your draft. Tight ends are very, very, very bad again. But if you do miss out on some of the top tight ends like Kyle Pitts and Darren Waller and TJ Hawkinson, all three of those guys I absolutely love. I'd be willing to take Travis Kelce in the first round too. I almost took him over Alvin Kamara in this draft I'm doing right now live on YouTube. And I'll go back to the draft board for everyone watching live on YouTube in just a second. But I do think that guys like Tyler Higbee, Dallas Goedert, guys like Robert Tonyan, Gerald Everett, these are guys that have some upside if you do miss on those elite guys. But at least half those guys I just mentioned will probably bust. That's just how bad the tight end position is, and there's not going to be very much consistency. I do like Tyler Higbee a lot, though. What are your thoughts on Swift and Gaskin? Yeah, I love DeAndre Swift. I've been in on DeAndre Swift for several weeks now. The receiving upside, the same reason that TJ Hawkinson has a lot of upside this season is the same reason DeAndre Swift has a lot of upside this season. Plus, the Lions have a top 10 offensive line. They have a top 10 offensive line. It's the only strength of their team. It's the only strength of their entire team. They're like the Patriots if they also had a horrible defense. And they're like a worse version of the Patriots. That's basically what the Lions are, with absolutely somehow even worse receivers than the Pats. So, but they do have a good offensive line, just like the Patriots. I think the Patriots have a top 5 offensive line. That's why I like Damian Harris. That's why I like DeAndre Swift. But I don't want to draft guys that are already injured. And DeAndre Swift is already injured. How are you already injured? I need him to be fully healthy in my high stakes season long leagues to actually want to draft him. If he is still nursing his hamstring injury, I do not like the soft tissue issues either. If he's already injured at the time of my drafts in like 3 weeks, I won't be drafting him. But if he's fully healthy, I'll gladly take DeAndre Swift in the 3rd round. Thoughts on Miles Sanders? I feel like the training camp hype, and it's not hype, I don't know what's the opposite of hype. The training camp, bad news about Miles Sanders is getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand to the point where Miles Sanders is going to end up being a good value. There's training camp reports that Miles Sanders has a lot of competition now. He's Kenny Gainwell, Boston Scott, Jordan Howard. All these guys are playing passing downs, and they're playing 3rd downs, and they're playing goal line carries. I honestly am not reading very much into it. I'm not. Because I do believe that they're going to be, Miles Sanders is going to be just fine. And I think I got Kyler Murray in this draft, so I'm going to draft Rondale Moore just to complete that stack. I will want Trevor Lawrence very soon here too. And I don't feel super excited about Rondale Moore, but in a best ball league where I already drafted Kyler Murray, I will try to stack Rondale Moore with him. But guys, Miles Sanders, really quickly, let me finish my thought on Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders did much better with Jalen Hurts last year. He was averaging around 80 yards a game. And he's clearly the best running back on the team. I don't care what the training camp reports are saying. They're obviously trying to keep Miles Sanders healthy, and he's very evidently the best running back on the team. I don't care if he fumbled a few times in training camp. I honestly could care less. I believe that Miles Sanders is a good 5th round pick, 4th round pick, and that's where he's going now. If we scroll up on this draft, where did Miles Sanders get picked? Miles Sanders was picked in the beginning of the last pick of the 5th round. He's almost going in the 6th round. The hate has gone too far on Miles Sanders. He is better than Javonte Williams. He's arguably even me taking Travis Etienne over him is not a great pick. Miles Sanders has a pretty safe floor. The question remains about his ceiling. Can he actually hit 50 catches this season? Probably not. But he does have a pretty good floor. Thoughts on Darnell Mooney? Yeah, Darnell Mooney, the training camp news about Darnell Mooney is not surprising. We all should have realized how good Darnell Mooney was. You will realize it this season, too. The only concern about Darnell Mooney for me is just the quarterback position on the team. Darnell Mooney is an absolute baller. He's going to ball out if given the opportunity. I absolutely love him as a 7th through 10th round pick, depending on your league format. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence with this pick, but I almost want to take Matthew Stafford. I do have Tyler Higbee. I like Stafford more than Trevor Lawrence, but this guy just made it much easier for me by taking him one pick ahead of me. So I will take Trevor Lawrence. That's my last quarterback now in this draft. I stacked Trevor Lawrence with Travis Etienne and with DJ Chark. I absolutely love that stack. I stacked Kyler Murray with Rondale Moore, and I will try to snag AJ Green later in this draft too to finish out that stack. I think AJ Green, by the way, don't draft AJ Green in your home leagues. He's not a guy that we are ever going to know a given week if AJ Green is going to score 0 points or 14 points. Like, he's going to be that type of player that you absolutely will have no idea going into the week how well he's going to do. But in a best ball league where I don't need to make start-sit decisions, I think AJ Green could score 6+ touchdowns this season. Like, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing if he has some big red zone role for the Cardinals. So I'm happy to stack him with Kyler Murray late in this draft. Rank Zeke, Eckler, Aaron Jones. I would rank them in that order. I would rank them Ezekiel Elliott first, Eckler second, Aaron Jones third. And honestly, the thing I'm most concerned about in my personal ranking there is Zeke. I think Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones are going to ball out. I still think Zeke has a higher ceiling than both of them, but it feels like he also has the lowest floor. Like, there's a very, very scary part of Ezekiel Elliott with how he ended last season, but you got to remember the context for Ezekiel Elliott. You have to remember the context for Ezekiel Elliott. Offensive line, injured. They are returning one of the best top 3 maybe offensive lines in the league. Dak Prescott injured. They are returning Dak Prescott, who was absolutely balling out before his injury, and Ezekiel Elliott was also dealing with an injury himself last season, and from all the reports coming out of camp, he's also fully healthy and also might get even some reps in preseason. So yeah, I like Ezekiel Elliott a lot. I have the 10 pick non-PPR. Julian, who do I take? I would look in a non-PPR league. I would be looking for running backs in that part of the draft. I honestly, with the 10th pick, if you look back at who was taken in this draft in the first round, guys like Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris. I'm nervous about Jonathan Taylor. I'm very nervous about Nick Chubb too. I think I would try to stray away from them. But in a non-PPR league, they're not as bad, Julian. So Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, not the end of the world. I would try to get 2 of those running backs though. Who wins this trade? Diggs for Jefferson and Henderson. Probably the Jefferson side, just because Jefferson has a slightly lower ceiling, but not that far off from Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson could be an absolutely insane receiver again this season. So I think I'd like the Jefferson side. But Stephon Diggs has overall wide receiver 1 in his range of outcomes. He led receivers in yards last season. Zeke, Chubb, or Kamara at 4. If it's a PPR league, you can definitely talk yourself into Kamara. Definitely don't go with Nick Chubb at 4th overall, though. All right, I'm back on the clock here. Did I take a second tight end? I didn't take a second tight end, so I'm going to take Gerald Everett. And I'll take Evan Ingram, too, if he's there with my next pick. And then I'll probably stop taking any tight ends. And if Evan Ingram's gone with my next pick, I probably will just stick to 2 tight ends on this team. What about Devontae or Tyreek? In a non-PPR league, Julian, I don't love them as much, but they can definitely be considered in that spot too. Both those guys are going to ball out this season. We are live on YouTube and TikTok right now, guys. If you're watching live on TikTok, we're doing a live best ball draft, a real money league, $5 league, with the upside of winning $300,000. It's a tournament. And if you've never drafted on Underdog before, the best ball drafts, it's the #1 way to practice for your actual draft. Because there's no in-season management on the best ball leagues. You draft your team, and then your best lineup's submitted for you at the end of each week automatically. There's no adding, there's no dropping, there's no trading, there's no start-sit decisions. There's 0 in-season management, which is why I like doing these throughout the offseason, because in-season, I don't want to be managing 250 teams, but I can do 250 drafts as batting practice for my actual high-stakes season-long leagues that are coming up in just a few weeks. And you can use the code WALTER when you first sign up. If you have never deposited money on Underdog before, and you use the code WALTER and you deposit $5, they're going to give you a free $25. A free $25 to use. And that means you can do 6 drafts with the upside of winning $300,000 if they go up. Thoughts on Chris Carson? Yeah, I like Chris Carson a lot. Barkley and RB1. I do think Barkley is an RB1. I was just showing that screenshot of him behind me. But I think Saquon Barkley is astronomical upside. I will not be surprised at all if Saquon Barkley wins so many fantasy leagues this season. He absolutely comes with risk. He actually might not play till week 3. And even when he is playing, he might see a limited workload for the first half of the season. But guess what? If you are in your fantasy football playoffs and you have a healthy Saquon Barkley seeing his full workload, you are going to have a very good chance to win your league, bottom line. So I am happily drafting Saquon Barkley in the back end of the first round. Do you think you could make a cheaper premium for the app, like Premium Lite? Noah, we actually have this. There's 2 tiers in the WalterPicks app now. There's 1 tier just for the fantasy tools. This is called the Champion tier. Just the fantasy tools. You're getting access to the draft tool, the start sit tool. You're getting access to the trade analyzers. You're getting access to the 10 transactions advice. Everything to win your season-long fantasy football league, you are getting access to for just $5 a month. That's literally it. $60 a year, that's it. Then there's the higher tier that also includes the DraftKings and FanDuel advice and the player props advice. So there actually is 2 different tiers because we want people that are just getting into fantasy and are just looking for the fantasy tools to still have access to the elite fantasy tools that are offered within the WalterPicks app. So hopefully that helps out a little bit. I will draft Sterling Shepard with this next pick here. Sterling Shepard, I feel like, is a guy that has kind of gone overlooked like all offseason. Sterling Shepard, they draft a guy in Kadarius Toney who is clearly not yet ready to be a elite NFL caliber wide receiver. He's at least 1 year away, if not 2 years away, from having any chance of doing anything for the Giants. Sterling Shepard is a clear starting wide receiver for the Giants. And if Saquon Barkley is going to miss the first 3 games, then all of a sudden we see Sterling Shepard have a chance to have multiple games with 10 targets. If this happens, Sterling Shepard is going to be an absolute steal. I just got him in the 13th round. So I have been drafting him a decent amount this late. What's the best strategy I should use with the 4th pick in a 10-man PPR league? I think you go with one of the top 4 running backs. And to me, the top 4 running backs are Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. If either of those 2 guys fall, you're absolutely in the money. That's amazing. Both those guys will probably go 1-2 in almost every single league, though. So then you're deciding between these 3 guys: Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara. And honestly, all 3 of them have their pros and cons. All 3 of them have their pros and cons. And hopefully the YouTube live stream's not lagging too much right now. Any advice for a 27th pick in a 32-person league? We are doing the 32-person draft in just a few weeks. Very excited for that to get started. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm the commissioner of a 32-person fantasy league, guys. We have 32 TikTok creators now, a part of the WalterPicks brand. This is our way of doubling down on our strength, which is TikTok. And we believe in the platform. We believe in the creators that we have brought on. And we have now brought on successfully 32 different TikTok creators, 1 for each NFL team. And you can go follow them. If you just click on the list of people I'm following, you can go follow them on our TikTok account. Let me see if I can find this photo really quickly. I don't think I'm going to be able to. But you can go follow them on TikTok, and they're doing a 32-person fantasy league together. A 32-person fantasy league. I'm one of them. What's up, Michael? 32-person fantasy league. The winner is going to win some real NFL tickets, a massive trophy, and the ultimate lifetime bragging rights. The last place finisher also is going to have to do multiple different last place punishments that are not going to be fun for them to do. They will also raise some money for charity, which is great. So you don't want to come in last. You want to come in first. There's 32 people. There is 1 super flex slot, 3 flexes, 1 wide receiver, 1 running back. And I did a simulated just mock draft. And in the last round of this draft, guys like Jordy Nelson, guys that I've literally never heard of and are not on NFL rosters, were getting drafted in this 32-person draft. First running back to pick, definitely Christian McCaffrey. It's got to be Christian McCaffrey. It's got to be Christian McCaffrey. Is it good if I have Chubb, Aaron Jones, ETN, and Mike Davis at running back? Yeah, I think that's pretty solid. Honestly, there's a lot of hype going on in the WalterPicks bubble about Mike Davis in the WalterPicks bubble. Honestly, I've heard very little criticism of Mike Davis. And if there's one running back that I would guess is going to land on my do not draft list, which look out for this is coming in the next few weeks, it's Mike Davis. Mike Davis checks so many boxes. He checks so many boxes of red flags. He is 28 years old, way past the age apex for successful running backs. He has never been a top running back on any team he's ever been on. He also played with Christian McCaffrey for a while. So that it would explain that away as well. He's also on a team that has had historically bad running for like 3 consecutive seasons. I'm going to draft Paris Campbell with this pick. I've still been drafting Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman, by the way, as their ADPs go down. I know the Carson Wentz injury is brutal for them, but one of them is still going to definitely outproduce their current cost. Let's see what my roster construction is looking like right now. But honestly, guys, Mike Davis, I'm pretty concerned about him. I'm pretty he should be a good receiver. They're saying Quadriolison is like doing some stuff. Bro, Sam woke up and chose to try to make me cry. I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry. And I do understand the case for Mike Davis. And you got to understand too, my do not draft list. It's less about like there's going to be people on the do not draft list that do very well and win fantasy football leagues. The goal of the do not draft list though is to make sure that we avoid as many busts as possible. There's going to be some false negatives there. But as long as we don't have too many false positives, we're good. I don't know if I said that correctly. I get confused with that terminology. But you know what I mean. As long as we're identifying as many busts as possible, the list was a success. Zeke or Saquon at 5. I would go with Zeke at this current moment over Saquon at 5. But I won't be shocked at all if Saquon ends up being the fantasy football league winner that you wanted Zeke to be. But I would go with Zeke. I would go with Zeke at the current moment because Saquon could miss the first 3 weeks, which is pretty brutal. All right, I need either a running back or wide receiver. James White is available, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to go with De'Ami Brown, though. I think he has intriguing upside, which is all I'm looking for. At this part of the draft, I'm in round 15 of the draft. There's only 3 picks left, and I'm just looking for intriguing upside, especially at the wide receiver position. Again, I don't make start-sit decisions in this league. My best lineup's automatically submitted for me. So I'm just looking for boom-bust wide receivers at this point. Thoughts on Matthew Stafford? Do you like Zeke? Yeah, I do like Zeke. There's a lot of hate about Zeke out there, too. But there's so much context that is in the favor of Zeke. He is the second highest paid running back in the NFL. He is in his prime in terms of age. He is fully healthy and looking very in shape. He is getting back a fully healthy offensive line, and he is getting back a fully healthy, hopefully, Dak Prescott, who's also dealing with his own injury, different injury now, but he is expected to play week 1. So yeah, there's a lot to like about Ezekiel Elliott. Dobbins RB1 by the end of the season won't shock me at all. There's a lot of hate about J.K. Dobbins out there too, and I do think J.K. Dobbins has a really, really high ceiling. I think the floor is there. The ceiling is also there for me. Like the one knock against J.K. Dobbins is he might not catch a lot of passes. Lamar Jackson is known not to throw to his running backs very much, and he also could get some red zone carries and goal line carries stolen from Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards. This can happen. But J.K. Dobbins was the clear goal line back for the Ravens last season. He's excelled in the position, actually. I think he converted 75% of his carries inside the 5 into touchdowns. So it would be surprising for me to see him lose that role over Gus Edwards. And there's no more Mark Ingram. Gus Edwards was involved in the last 5 games of the season. Gus Edwards played in every single one of those games. Lamar Jackson played in every single one of those games, except for maybe one because of COVID. And J.K. Dobbins goes out there, he averages 80 yards per game and a touchdown per game. He was averaging like 15 fantasy points per game, RB1 numbers consistently. Gus Edwards played in all of those games. He actually had 10-plus carries in most of those games. Gus Edwards can be involved. Lamar Jackson can be involved. J.K. Dobbins can still succeed. Like, these are not independent events. These are not mutually exclusive. With the first pick in a 10-man league after CMC, should I take RB wide receiver or wide receiver? It depends who's there. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire is there, if Naji Harris is there, you should probably take those guys. Like, I was just showing this picture of a draft. I had the first overall pick in this draft, and if you can do this, you should do this. Look at this. This is absolutely insane if you're watching live on TikTok. I got Christian McCaffrey, Najee Harris, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire with my first 3 picks in that draft. All right, I'm about to be back on the clock here. I have 3 picks left. I have 8 wide receivers. James White's still there. I'll probably take James White, honestly, with this next pick. James White, guys, there's no more Rex Burkhead in the New England backfield. There is no more Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead is now on the Houston Texans, where veteran running backs go to end their careers now, I guess. But Rex Burkhead had 25% of the touches. Is the audio weird again? I really hope it's not weird. Simple Skills Gaming. I'm having some audio struggles today. I think it was worse before, though, if that makes anything any better. But also my internet connection is not great right now. Hopefully it's okay. But what I was saying about James White is Rex Burkhead had 25% of the opportunity for the backfield of the New England Patriots last season, and he played a pretty big receiving role. I expect James White to take over that role. People like to think that the New England Patriots backfield is like this super complicated thing, and it's going to change every week because Bill Belichick is this like mastermind who will never commit to one running back. I don't really see it that way at all this season. I think Damien Harris is going to get at least minimum 12 carries a game, and he's going to be there on first and second down almost all the time, unless they're getting absolutely crushed. which I don't expect them to because they have a good offensive line and a good defense. On third downs, I think it's going to be James White. I think that's going to be what happens. Brandon Bolden and Sony Michel might mix in on the occasional first and second down, but like that's it. So I do think James White, 16th round, I can talk myself into him as my last running back on this squad. He could have multiple 10-plus point games as I see it, and that will be returning value at this cost. All right, let's see what wide receivers are here for my last two picks. Any tight ends that could be interesting as well. I got Clyde at 14 over Gibson and Ridley. What do you think? Yeah, I wouldn't take him over Gibson or Ridley. I wouldn't take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over either of those guys. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire this season, but more I like Olamide Zaccheaus at this pick too. But I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire like at the end of the second round. That's like pick 23, 24, which is where I got him here. I got pick 25 like all day long. If I'm going to be able to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick 25, yeah, sign me up every single time. He's still in the best offense in the league. He has actually a better offensive line. He has pretty minimal competition. Jerick McKinnon's there now. He's apparently been doing pretty well in camp. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is seeing at least 60% of the touches in the best offense in the NFL. Yeah, I'll take that in the second or third round all day. But I wouldn't do that in the back end of the first round. I would prefer Antonio Gibson, who has more league-winning upside than even Clyde Edwards-Helaire has. And I would prefer Calvin Ridley, who is probably going to be the number one wide receiver this season. Like, it definitely could happen. DeAndre Hopkins has a shot at it. Stephon Diggs has a shot at it. Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill also have shots at it. But Calvin Ridley is in the conversation for the number one overall wide receiver. How much is a month for the app, same as last year? Yeah, so there's two tiers in the WalterPicks app this season, Mike. You have the season-long fantasy tier, which is the same thing as last season. $5 a month, $60 for the year. That is access to all of the fantasy football tools you need. Draft tool, start-sit tool, trade analyzers, 10 transaction advice. Everything you could possibly need to win your fantasy league is in the app. All powered by Walter, our machine learning algorithm. Then the second tier is what includes the player prop picks and the DFS, DraftKings, and FanDuel lineup optimizer. So if you're spending a lot on player props and you're spending a lot on DraftKings and FanDuel each week, then you got to sign up for that tier too. That is $15 a month or $200 for the season. That's the pricing there. So just want to be very clear about the two different tiers. Do you think it's bad to go Kamara over Mahomes, third pick in 2 QB half PPR 10-man league? Do you think it's bad to go Kamara over Mahomes in a 2 QB league? Yeah, I do. In a 2 QB league, like, I really believe Mahomes should be a top 3 pick. A top 3 pick in every 2 quarterback league. You're getting such consistent scoring and upside from him. How would you structure your draft positional wise? So I'll answer this question in best ball terms and then also season long terms, because I know most of the people listening are thinking about their just season long league with their friends, and that is different to me. And there's a key core differences here. But in the best ball leagues where I'm not making start-sit decisions, there's no trades, there's no adding, dropping, I'm trying to construct my team with 3 to 5 running backs, 2 to 3 quarterbacks, 2 to 3 tight ends, and then the rest of my team is wide receivers. Depending on how good of quarterbacks and tight ends I get, I can stick with 2. Like in this example, I got Kyler Murray, so I'm chilling with just two. I'm going to go with Anthony Miller here. He's been one of my favorite last-round picks recently. But in a season-long league, it's different. In a season-long league, I'm almost never going to draft. If it's a single quarterback season-long league, you will almost never catch me drafting more than 2 quarterbacks or more than 2 tight ends. And a lot of times, I'm just going to draft 1 because I don't want, especially if I draft an early-ish quarterback, like in the first 6 rounds, if you take a quarterback or a tight end, don't draft a backup. You're going to be able to get one on the waiver wire later in the season for the bye week. Don't draft for the bye week. Draft for upside. This is the difference with season-long leagues. As the draft goes on, you got to draft for upside. You have to draft for upside. And that's why in a season-long league, I'm trying to get 2 early running backs in the first 4 rounds at least. If I don't, then I better have very, very good wide receivers and hopefully an elite tight end as well. And then I'm going for like some high upside running backs later in the draft. And I'm going to join the draft live right now, guys. I know Michael, you're trying to join this live draft. If you join at the same time as me, you might be able to get in. I'm going to be doing one more live draft on YouTube. And there's 3 more spots. There's only 3 more spots. Join the next puppy draft. You can draft against me. Only 2 more spots now. Tips for startup dynasty drafts. Yeah, I'll talk about that, Lucas, sorry. The last thing about season-long format, though, later in the draft, like, I want to draft running backs. I don't do that in best ball leagues. But later in the draft, I want to draft running backs, because especially high upside guys that are like an injury away, because those are guys that can win your league. I want guys that can win my league with every single one of my picks after like the first 6 rounds. Like as you get later in the draft, you should be wanting to take more and more and more risks as you get later in the draft, right? Risk averse in the beginning. Draft the stud running backs, the safe picks, the stud wide receivers, the stud tight ends. As you get later in the draft, now focus on the ceiling. What is the upside? What is the best case scenario for this player? And go with the guy that has the best case scenario. Don't draft guys. I just noticed the whiteboard in the back. Yes, Jameson Crowder, he remains elite. And I don't think, TikTok, I think this might be backwards for you. I'll turn the background off for just a second. But yes, Jameson Crowder, he is elite. He still remains elite. And honestly, I think what is good, Fantasy Football Nation? How we doing, man? I do think that Jameson Crowder, like, is actually being slept on again this season. He's going in the last round. He's going in the last round. The last round. Jameson Elite Crowder. He's going in the last round of your fantasy drafts. And you better bet in every single one of my leagues, if Jameson Elite Crowder is sitting there in the last round of the draft, I will take him every single time. He wasn't available that last draft I did in the last round, unfortunately. But Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, based on everything I've read about Jets training camp, they're going to be the outside receivers. Jameson Elite Crowder is going to be the starting slot receiver, and he is, by all reports, 100% healthy, balling out in training camp, and Denzel Mims is literally the 7th wide receiver on the team. He might actually get cut. So Jameson Elite Crowder is solidified as an every down slot wide receiver with a quarterback that is far better than what he had last season. And what, now we're just going to fade Jameson Elite Crowder? This sounds like a better situation than it was for Jameson Crowder last season. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, honestly, about Jameson Crowder returning to his elite status. And especially on teams where I draft, I don't want Derrick Henry. People are making me so nervous about drafting Derrick Henry because there is no receiving. There's no receiving ceiling. There's nothing. There's no receiving ceiling. He might not even get 10 catches this season. But I can't not draft Derrick Henry, especially in these best ball leagues where I'm just looking for a safe floor. Derrick Henry, guys, he could be the first running back in NFL history ever to average over 100 rushing yards per game in 3 straight seasons. Nobody's ever done that. The only other running back in the last 30 years that has done that in even 2 straight seasons was Barry Sanders. That's it. It's him and Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry might do it for a 3rd straight season. If he just stays healthy, he'll probably do it. But I'm sorry, guys. You can't fade Jameson Elite Crowder this season. Just don't do it. Take him with your last pick. There's 0 opportunity cost to Jameson Crowder this season. Just grab him with your last round pick and then coast. You're just going to coast to the championship because you're going to have your flex wide receiver for your fantasy team in the last round just sitting there for you. The slot wide receiver every down. Zach Wilson is another guy that I feel like there hasn't been much about him in training camp news. There hasn't been that much buzz around Zach Wilson, but he is better than Sam Darnold. And let me tell you, the Adam Gase effect, it's coming. And it's coming to a Jets field near you. It's also coming to Carolina Panthers field near you too. Olamide thoughts. Yeah, I just drafted Olamide Zaccheaus in the live draft I just finished on YouTube. I'm doing another live draft on YouTube, by the way. Look up WalterPicks on YouTube. And if you're watching live on YouTube, guys, hit that subscribe button. We are trying to hit 3,000 YouTube subscribers by the end of the week. We're almost there. You could be our 3,000th YouTube subscriber. And if you're in the first 3,000, I will consider you an OG. The true OGs, those were the first 500. But you are still an OG subscriber to our YouTube channel. If you go hit that subscribe button right now, WalterPicks on YouTube. We're live, showing you a real live draft. The first round just finished. I had the 4th overall pick. I reluctantly went with Derrick Henry over Ezekiel Elliott with the 4th overall pick. Just bought the $60 one. Mike, seriously, thank you so much. The number one thing you can do to support me is to subscribe in the WalterPicks app. So seriously, Mike, every single person that is subscribed to the WalterPicks app is the reason that I'm currently living out my dream of doing this full time. So honestly, seriously, thank you. And I hope it gives you everything you need to win your fantasy league this season. And if you ever have any feedback about the app, definitely let me know. I was literally the 100th sub to YouTube last season. Santiago, you are the truest of true OGs. Bro, that is an absolutely, that's awesome. Thank you for sticking around. Yarjma, definitely, for sure. Tips for startup Dynasty drafts. Luca, I didn't forget about you. In Superflex leagues, Dynasty Superflex leagues, you need to prioritize quarterbacks double what you normally would because quarterbacks not only are more valuable in just two QB leagues, but they also sustain their value in dynasty leagues for longer. They have insanely long careers. It's getting longer and longer. Tom Brady is 55 years old, and he's like, no, I think 45, but he is still going strong on the team, leading the league in deep attempts per game. He was a top 8 quarterback in fantasy last season. This is just one example, but you got to prioritize getting young, good quarterbacks because they're going to just sustain their value for such a long time. Otherwise, though, I think you need to be very cognizant of the running back age curve, which is very steep and very fast. After age 27, after your 27-year-old season as a running back, it's going to be really hard to sustain value in your dynasty league. So once your running backs turn 27, good luck trading them for anything worthwhile. So just be aware of that. It doesn't mean you can't draft guys like Mike Davis late in your dynasty startup draft. I think having a mix of ages is the ultimate goal. A lot of people go into dynasty drafts and they only draft young guys and rookies. I think that's a mistake. I think you should definitely prioritize getting some really good young guys like CeeDee Lamb, for example. Guys like Darnell Mooney, who's still very young. Guys like Michael Gallup, who's about to be on a new contract next season. But still, don't be afraid to draft the veteran guys that are still balling out later in the startup draft. There's insane value there sometimes. Guys like Keenan Allen will fall very far. Even a guy like Travis Kelce will fall farther than a normal league because he's old. But he still could have 3-4 good seasons left. So that's my general thought. For seasonal league, what do you think is the best picking order position-wise? Yeah, I honestly think that if I understand your question correctly, the first overall pick is the best pick in fantasy football this season. But I'm trying to get 2 running backs with my first 3 picks. I'm doing a live draft right now on YouTube. I just drafted Derrick Henry, 4th overall, and then in the second round, I went with Naji Harris. This is a 12-man league. Again, if you're watching live on YouTube, you can just see the live draft as it's happening. If you are watching live on YouTube, guys, smash that like button and that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. It takes you 2 seconds, too, so it's really fast, and it actually helps me out way more than you realize. Do you think it's necessary to get a backup kicker? No. Do not get a backup kicker. Definitely don't draft a backup kicker, and draft a kicker just in your last round. I absolutely hate kickers. I think that they should... I don't hate kickers. I hate having to deal with kickers on my fantasy football team. So I would rather, honestly, all leagues just abolish kickers. Defenses, I feel kind of a similar way. Kickers are more consistent than defenses because defenses are even more matchup-based. But that being said, definitely don't draft a backup kicker. Just draft a high upside wide receiver running back with your last pick instead. All right, I'm back on the clock here. George Kittle's there. I'm definitely not going to pick George Kittle. George Kittle is one of the guys that I've been fading that is most likely to come back and bite me. I went Allen Robinson last time, so I'm going to go with Amari Cooper this time. I told you it was a tough choice, Allen Robinson versus Amari Cooper in that last draft I did. I would see this going either way. I would honestly, if there was $1,000 on the line and I was just doing one draft, I would take Allen Robinson over Amari Cooper. But since I'm doing hundreds of drafts, I'm going to mix it up occasionally. And I think Amari Cooper and Allen Robinson both have really, really high floors and ceiling. Don't spend half or more of your budget early for one person. Yeah, I agree. D-Hop in jail? Is that actually a thing? I thought I checked the news relatively recently. I don't want to spread misinformation here. Do you think it's necessary to get backup defense? No, neither of those things are necessary. Defenses add on the waiver wire each week, and you can go into the WalterPicks app, and we'll give you 10 transaction advice every single week that's going to tell you, Evan, exactly, not Evan, Switch Tfue. It's going to tell you every single week exactly who you need to add, including defenses. You're going to know which defense to just go add for free each week. It's zero cost to you at all in terms of draft capital you're spending in your draft. And you're going to get top 10 defensive play every single week just by using that tool. So I would not draft a second defense for that reason. You got to lean on the waiver wire for that stuff. Check the news. It said he was DeAndre Hopkins. Does anyone have a cheat sheet? Yeah, Camden. Go download the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. It's better than any cheat sheet you can get. You can compare any 2 players. And you're going to get not only projections based on our machine learning algorithm that's been significantly more accurate than every other projection out there, but also you're going to get, and you can't really see it here, ceiling and floor outcomes for every single player across every single position. So best case and worst case scenario for every single player based on 10,000 simulations a season right on your phone. So you don't even need a cheat sheet. And you can track your draft. Look, you can track your draft with these buttons live on your phone. So I would recommend using that. Did I tweak by drafting Dobbins over Keenan Allen? Yeah, you tweaked a little bit. I do think you tweaked out a little bit. You probably should have drafted Keenan Allen over J.K. Dobbins. In the draft that we're doing right now, Keenan Allen was picked end of second round, and J.K. Dobbins was picked end of like mid third round. So like a 10 pick difference, but it's not the end of the world. All right, so can someone confirm this DeAndre Hopkins in jail thing? Like this seems like really crazy to me. Let's take a look. I'm refreshing my news right here, and I'm not seeing anything. So someone can share the link. If you're in the YouTube channel and you actually have a link to share, you can. Who do you recommend for the 6th and 7th pick? Yeah, I think that if Ezekiel Elliott is still there, you should probably take Ezekiel Elliott. If Travis Kelce is there, you should probably consider Travis Kelce. And if both those guys are gone, you're thinking about Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, or Saquon Barkley. Any of those 4 guys are probably good picks there. Saquon Barkley, just know he might not play the first 3 weeks of the season, but he does have league-winning upside. Absolutely, he's one of the most athletic running backs, arguably the most athletic running back in the history of the NFL. He could be the most athletic human, period, that we've just ever seen. Saquon Barkley is insane. I feel like people have forgotten how insane Saquon Barkley is. Don't forget how insane Saquon Barkley is when he's sitting there at pick 6 or later in your fantasy drafts. I don't see, yards from me neither. Is Kamara the correct pick at 3 for PPR? Yeah, I think that honestly, after the first 2 picks of your fantasy football draft, there is very real arguments to be made about every pick after that. And I don't think there's a clear yes, no, Noel. But I do think Alvin Kamara is who I would take in that situation in a PPR league. I just was explaining at the beginning of this live stream. No Michael Thomas is a massive, massive deal for Alvin Kamara in fantasy football. Like the first 6 weeks of the season, Alvin Kamara is going to have 6+ targets in every single game. He was a wide receiver 1 in fantasy last season. Wide receiver 1 without his rushing stats, without Michael Thomas. All right, I'm back on the clock here. I'm going to end up getting T. Higgins again. I would take Chris Carson, but I'm feeling pretty good about the 2 workhorse running backs I already drafted. This is the part of the draft where wide receivers, just start flying off the board. Like, look at this 4th round that we're experiencing. This happened last draft too. Look at these wide receivers. We saw 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 receivers in 10 picks. 9 receivers in 10 straight picks. Yarsma, we're going for 200 every live for sure on the live streams. Definitely hit that like button if you're watching live right now, but more importantly, hit that subscribe button if you're watching live on YouTube. Where do you target Naji Harris? Well, actually, in this draft I'm doing right now, Mike, I got him in the 2nd round, late 2nd round. This is exactly where I'm targeting him. Him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Joe Mixon. Anytime around here, like if I have a top 4 pick and I can, on the turn, get Naji Harris, Joe Mixon, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, absolute money. Cash it in. You're going to dominate. Like, amazing. Both these guys I have, if they can just stay healthy, Derrick Henry and Najee Harris, they're going to be very consistent every week. There's no start-sit decision to be made. They're going to get 15-plus carries every single week with, very, very good touchdown upside. So that's the thought process there. What's your overall strategy for a 2 QB league? Yeah, you got to prioritize quarterback. Honestly, I probably over-prioritize quarterbacks in 2 QB leagues, but I would rather over-prioritize them than under-prioritize them in 2 quarterback leagues, because quarterbacks will fly off the board, and you do not want to be caught holding the bag when you do not have a quarterback. It's round 3, and the best quarterback available to you is I don't know. I'm trying to think of an arbitrary random quarterback, but you don't want Cam Newton, you don't want Mac Jones, you don't want Andy Dalton, you don't want Tyrod Taylor. You want, those are the guys that early in your draft you're gonna have to consider taking over very good actual fantasy players. So just draft a couple early. And then you can forget about it. And those are also same thing as in a dynasty league, a little bit less so in a season long league. But those are also guys that, because it's a 2 QB league, they will maintain their value even if they don't do great. You can trade them for good things, because 2 quarterback leagues, quarterbacks just have so much value. So you can always trade them later too. Thoughts on Chubb versus Taylor? Yeah, both of these guys, Evan, Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor, both guys I've been thinking a lot about. And both guys, honestly, I will be releasing the Do Not Draft list that has honestly saved me for multiple straight seasons. And I'm doing a lot of analysis for it right now, and we'll be releasing it in the next couple of weeks. So watch out for that on TikTok/YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube so you don't miss it. But both these guys could end up on there. Jonathan Taylor, Quentin Nelson's injured, Carson Wentz injured, 5 to 12 weeks. What a ridiculous range 5 to 12 weeks is. That means either week 1 or week 7 for Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson. What type of range is that? Absolutely insane. To me, I take the pessimistic view with injuries. I think when I hear week 1 to week 7, I'm thinking, yeah, they're out till week 7. Bad news for Jonathan Taylor. And he was already had concerns because Marlon Mack will be involved, could steal touchdowns, and Nyheim Hines will come in on third downs. So there is concerns about Jonathan Taylor already, never mind the Carson Wentz injury and the Quentin Nelson injury. Quentin Nelson could be the best offensive lineman in the league. It's a big deal for the Colts not to have him. They're still probably a top 15 offensive line, but without him, like with him, they were top 3. Without him, they're more like top 15. So there's a lot to be concerned about with Jonathan Taylor. Nick Chubb, on the other hand, you know what you're getting with Nick Chubb. He's going to get between 50 and 60% of the workload for the Browns. He's going to get like 70 to 75% of the carries for the Browns. And he's the most talented rusher in the entire NFL. So like you can feel good about that. He was the most efficient running back in the NFL last season. The most efficient one. Nobody was more efficient. I heard a stat last night. Nick Chubb averaged 10 yards per carry in fourth downs last season. In the fourth quarter last season. In the fourth quarter, Nick Chubb averaged 10 yards per carry. Think about how absolutely insane that is. And he also faced the highest rate of stacked boxes in the NFL. So he was going up against more defenders. They knew Nick Chubb was getting the ball as they were killing the game. And this man goes out and averages 10 yards per carry. That's how insane Nick Chubb is. And that's why I would probably lean Nick Chubb over Jonathan Taylor. But to wrap up my Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb thoughts here in just a few seconds, Nick Chubb has no receiving upside. And there's just not as much league-winning upside without a Kareem Hunt injury for Nick Chubb to make me excited about him in the second round, especially PPR leagues. Like, there's no receiving ceiling, and Kareem Hunt will steal touchdowns from him. All right, I drafted Amari Cooper in this league, so I'm going to stack him with Dak Prescott. He's making progress, some light throwing. Like, I hate that he's already injured. I really do, but I already kind of made the bet that he's okay by drafting Amari Cooper, so I'm going to double down on that bet by drafting Dak Prescott. What do you think of Rojo this season? Yeah, Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, I haven't really been drafting at all. One of them is probably going to end up being a value, but I feel like the most likely scenario for that backfield, and I include Giovanni Bernard in this situation there too. I think he could very well be involved on passing downs, which will be terrible news for Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette in fantasy football. But if he is involved or isn't involved, I think throughout the season, it's going to be like last year. They're going to like rotate different guys in throughout the course of the season. And it can be a different guy each week. I think it's going to be an absolute nightmare for start-sit decisions every single week. Like the range of outcomes each week for them is going to be like running back 40 or running back 5. Like they're going to have such a wide range of outcomes as a ceiling and floor. So just know that when you're drafting them, they have a very low floor, a very low weekly floor, and they probably won't be very consistent. That being said, in like the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round, you also have the chance to draft the starting running back on a very, very good offense, returning all of its offensive linemen pretty late in the draft. So for that reason, you can talk yourself into it late in drafts. Claypool or T. Higgins? I like this question. I like both those guys a lot. I think that I would prefer T. Higgins over Chase Claypool solely because the Bengals are going to throw a lot more passes than the Steelers this season. The Steelers are going to be a run-first team as much as they possibly can be, and the Bengals are not going to be a run-first team. The Bengals could be top 5 in the league in pass attempts, so I like T. Higgins a lot for that reason. And they both are like in situations where they're competing with other good wide receivers. I'm going to take Antonio Brown with this pick. They're both competing with good receivers, right? Like Juju and Deontay Johnson will be very much involved for Chase Claypool, and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd will be involved with T. Higgins. I think that T. Higgins has a better chance to lead the team in targets, though, than Chase Claypool has. Chase Claypool, don't get me wrong, though, absolutely love him. There's very few wide receivers that did what he did in his rookie season in terms of his touchdown efficiency. He's an absolute beast, guys. He's a very legit deep threat in the NFL. He might even play more in the slot a little bit this season. Apparently, Juju's going to move a little bit more outside than he did last year. But yeah, I like both of them. But I would definitely prefer T. Higgins over Chase Claypool. I just think he's more consistent, especially for a season-long league. Did you hear that Andrew Luck was thinking about coming out of retirement? Yarjma, I didn't hear this, and I will not believe it unless you send an actual link to the actual report that he's considering coming out of retirement, because I did not see this, and I have pretty reliable sources that I check hourly. What is your order for round 1? Let's go through the order for round 1. This is always a tough question, and honestly, every time you ask this question, William Schaefer, every time someone asks this question, like if you come back tomorrow and I'm live and you ask this question, I might have a different answer. Honestly, I might, because it changes very frequently as new news comes out and as I do further analysis. But Let me go through really quickly first round. As I'm looking at the first round that happened in this draft live on YouTube right now, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. I think those are pretty obviously the first two picks in every single draft. McCaffrey should be first. Dalvin Cook should be second in every single format, unless it's a really legit 2 QB league. Then you can think about Patrick Mahomes. But we're talking about just the standard league here. After that, you're talking about, I think in a PPR league, I would go Alvin Kamara next. But in a non-PPR league, I would consider Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott to me are actually more concerning than Alvin Kamara, though. Alvin Kamara, if he can stay healthy, he is going to have a big receiving role, a big rushing role, and he is going to have league-winning upside that you want in your running backs. Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott could stay healthy and still have very little receiving role and could not hit that league-winning ceiling that you're drafting them for. So I would probably go Kamara third. Don't get me wrong, all three of these guys have league-winning upside. I would go Derrick Henry fourth and Zeke fifth. In a PPR league, though, I'm more inclined to take Zeke before Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry has absolutely zero receiving upside. After that, I would strongly consider Travis Kelce at 6th overall. I think he's the biggest positional advantage in fantasy football. You're getting wide receiver 1 numbers in your tight end slot. Next, I honestly think I would go Austin Eckler or Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley, I just know he's going to end up on so many of my teams because he's going so much later in drafts now. He's going end of first, early second round. But if he stays healthy, after he returns to full health, which is going to be, guys, by week 5, by week 5 of the season, there's going to be a fully healthy Saquon Barkley unleashed on the NFL. And if he can just stay healthy the rest of the season, he's going to win fantasy leagues. If you can just scrape together a few wins in those first 5 weeks, just know that he might not be at full steam the first 5 weeks. I'd rather them honestly go slow with Saquon so he can get to 100%. Don't rush Saquon back. Let him get a full recovery so that in the back half of the season, I can go win my fantasy league with Saquon Barkley on my team. So I would go Saquon Barkley, then Austin Eckler, then Aaron Jones. Then I'd start drafting receivers: Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. I think that's the 12 for me. But I think you can go a lot of different ways depending on the league format too. $20 says Taylor outplays Jones. Well, what are we defining as outplays? Luck one less monster. What are we defining as outplays? I'm going to draft Jameson Harris as my third running back. Absolutely love to see it. What are we defining as outplays? Is it fantasy points scored in a PPR league? If it's fantasy points scored per game fantasy points scored in a PPR league, luck one less monster, I will take you on with that. I think Aaron Jones will score more fantasy points per game in PPR leagues than Jonathan Taylor. And that's exactly what this projection is behind me, by the way. PPR league, projected points per game. Sorry, my chair's in the way. Deal. All right, luck one less monster. You gotta hold me to it because I will forget. I promise you, I will forget unless you keep reminding me. So you got to come back to live streams and remind me throughout the season. And obviously, we'll say minimum. We're gonna say minimum 4 games played. 4 games played. It's a per game thing, so it's fair. Minimum 4 games played. Hopefully they can each get more than that, though. That would be disappointing if they don't get at least 4 games in this season. All right, back to some of the questions on the YouTube channel. By the way, thank you for tuning in to the YouTube. Guys, I'm trying to hit 3,000 YouTube subscribers. We're actually really close. We're really close. I'm not sure what exactly we're at right now. I'm pretty sure we were at like 2,800 this morning. And I'm trying to hit 3,000 by the end of this week. The goal this season is 10,000 YouTube subscribers. It's a pretty big goal. Growing on YouTube is not easy, but I know we can do it. And we're going to be going live a lot to get there. All right, I'm back on the clock, live on YouTube with this pick. Elijah Moore is there. Elijah Moore is there for me, and I'm going to take him. I'm honestly liking this wide receiver group I'm building out a lot. I'm honestly liking this team construction so far. I need to think about tight ends a little bit. There was no Tyler Higbee available, so I'll probably draft 3 tight ends on this team and only 2 quarterbacks. No need Jake Pine. We do not need to spam. We do not need to spam the chat. I promise you. Especially on YouTube. That's like the perk of YouTube. The perk of YouTube, Jake, is that you do not need to spam the chat. TikTok is a little bit more spammy, partially just because there's more people, which is fine. But YouTube's not the place. It's not the place for spamming. I promise. I will try to get to your question. Pick 4 in a PPR 10-team league. Who should I target in the first 2 rounds when I have Taylor at round 3 and A.J. Brown at round 4? That's absolutely insane. But pick 4, I don't know who else has been kept if it's like a keepers league, Noah, but you got to be looking for those top 4 running backs. You want Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott. One of those guys would be amazing. Thoughts on AB? Yeah, I drafted Antonio Brown. What round did I get him in this draft? It must have been round 7. I got him at the 76th overall pick. If you have the WalterPicks app and you're a subscriber to the WalterPicks app, which is only $5 a month to absolutely dominate your fantasy league and dominate best ball drafts too, Antonio Brown has been a best ball favorite in the WalterPicks app for literally 2 straight months, and he has not moved from that spot because Antonio Brown led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in air yards in the games he played last season. He was the number 1 receiver in terms of opportunity. That's what that means. Air yards is the best measure of opportunity. It's the number of yards in the air the ball travels before reaching a receiver, whether they catch it or not. It is the ideal measure of opportunity for fantasy football. And Antonio Brown led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that stat in the games he played. And you're getting him in the 7th round, especially in a best ball league. I absolutely love it. And I bet I will draft him in season-long leagues too, because the ceiling is so high. Guys, the Buccaneers, we know exactly how they're going to work. It's the same team as last season. It's honestly a very similar concept to the team the year before too. They led the league in deep attempts per game, deep passes per game, passes that travel at least 20 yards. The Buccaneers have by far led the league in 2 consecutive seasons, and they're going to do it for a 3rd straight season. I actually think it's a genius strategy offensively, and it's one of the reasons for their success. And Antonio Brown fits that perfectly, and he's going to have some absolutely massive weeks. So would you take Kelsey over Eckler right now? Yeah, Noah. I definitely think you can. I'm hesitant to draft a tight end in the 1st round, especially in like 12 and 14 team leagues. But Travis Kelce is the single biggest positional advantage you can get in fantasy, and I do think, on average, I'll probably take him over Austin Eckler. I haven't come down to my high-stakes season-long leagues yet, and I feel like I'm going to face that exact situation. Like if I get picks 6 through 10, you almost have to start considering taking Travis Kelce with those picks 6 through 10, and you're also thinking about Austin Eckler. You're also thinking about Saquon Barkley. Kelce's probably the safest option, but Austin Eckler is also just an absolute smash play this season. He's got 0 competition, by far best offensive line he's ever played with. It's going to be the best offense he's ever been on, and he has just massive receiving upside. He is basically Alvin Kamara, but later in the 1st round, and on a better offense. So yeah, I could definitely talk myself into either way. I think it depends on what you're going for in terms of safety. Like, if you really want to be locking in a running back 1, go with Austin Eckler. But if you want the biggest positional advantage in fantasy football, you go with Travis Kelce, and you try to get some good running backs in rounds 2 and 3. All right, I'm about to be back on the clock. I'm disappointed I didn't get Trey Lance available to me. I can't stop drafting Trey Lance, guys. Trey Lance is going to start games for the 49ers this season. It's a matter of when, not if. It's just a matter of when, not if. So I do think he's going to end up winning fantasy leagues. If that happens sooner, like if that happens weeks 1 through 5, people are going to win fantasy football leagues solely because of Trey Lance. Zeke or Adams would pick 5. I'd go with Zeke. Drafting 2 running backs and then a top 3 tight end is a good strategy. Yeah, Miles, I agree. And the thing about tight ends too, and I think I talked about this a little at the very beginning of the stream, but my tight end approach is changing a little bit. And really, like, throughout all offseason, I've been willing to draft Travis Kelce as a top 8 pick. I've been willing to draft Darren Waller in the back end of the 2nd round. I've been willing to draft Kyle Pitts in the middle to late of the 4th round. But when you can get TJ Hawkinson in round 5, in round 6, then I feel like you should just wait for TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson could very, very easily be Darren Waller this season, guys. He could see 9 targets a game, which is what Darren Waller saw last season. And if he does, he is going to be the absolute best tight end you could have possibly picked because you're getting him later. You're getting him around 5 and 6. So you can get guys like Austin Eckler in the 1st round. You can go get guys like Najee Harris and Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. And then get a good wide receiver and then still get TJ Hawkinson. So like round 5 for TJ Hawkinson is a pretty intriguing argument to not take tight ends before that. All right, I'm back on the clock. Joe Burrow's available, and I did get T. Higgins, so absolutely love this double stack I got going on with Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins. We are putting on a stacking clinic today, guys. I think I double stacked my last team too, so that's good to see. The case behind stacking, by the way, it just raises upside. It raises the ceiling, especially with a quarterback wide receiver duo. Like the best weeks that these guys have are going to be even better for my fantasy teams. And it's correlated outcomes, right? Like if Amari Cooper does amazing, Dak Prescott probably had a pretty good fantasy day too. How were my first 5 picks? I went Chubb, Kelce, Pat Mahomes, Allen Robinson, and CeeDee Lamb. Very solid, Mike. I don't know. That sounds like a 10-man or 8-man league to me, but very solid start. How much is premium on WalterPicks? Colin, good question. So there's two different tiers this season in the WalterPicks app. There's the tier of just champion tier, which is the same price as last season, $5 a month, $60 for the year. It's going to give you access to every single thing you could possibly need to dominate your fantasy leagues. You're going to get a Who Do I Draft tool, which gives you comparisons for every single player, projected points per game, a ceiling outcome, a floor outcome, best and worst case scenario for every single player, and it actually links up to your sleeper leagues as well this season, or you can just input your picks as you take it, and it will give you live advice during your draft on positional value. So that's what you're getting with the champion tier in the WalterPicks app, as well as the Who Do I Start tool, start-sit comparisons throughout the whole season, both of our trade analyzers, the season-long and Dynasty trade analyzers, and transaction advice throughout the whole season. Everything you could possibly need to win your fantasy league, $5 a month, $60 a year in the WalterPicks app. It's honestly an absolute steal. The second tier, which is Champion Gold, which is what you're seeing here, that includes everything else in the app, which is the DraftKings and FanDuel lineup optimizers and the player prop picks weekly. You also will get a free player prop pick still every single Sunday live stream. If you're just someone who's going to place like a tiny bit on one prop each week, then that's probably best for you. If you're putting up a lot of money though to DraftKings and FanDuel and player props, then you got to go with the Champion Gold tier. It's going to pay for itself. So we had over 65% accuracy on prop picks over the last 2 years, like 200 picks. So yeah, it will. If we can continue that accuracy, obviously can't promise anything, but I'm feeling really good about how our algorithm identifies exploitable prop picks heading into the season. Then it will return its own value. So those are the two different tiers, and that tier is $15 a month, closer to $200 for the year. You think it's wrong to take Zeke over Henry? No, I don't think it's wrong. I mean, I think most people would disagree with you, Dan, but Zeke has more receiving upside than Derrick Henry. If you believe Zeke is fully healthy and is going to see the full workload, he definitely can outscore Derrick Henry this season, especially in PPR leagues. App name, it's called WalterPicks. WalterPicks, the same name as our TikTok account, WalterPicks, on the iOS App Store. Definitely check it out. Let me know what you think. Oh, by the way, everything comes with a 7-day free trial. I should probably be mentioning this. I'm a big believer any service should have at least a 7-day free trial. Like, before you actually pay, you should get to see what you're paying for. So there's a completely free 7 days of the app. Just start the trial, see if you like it. And if you don't like it, just cancel the trial and you will not get charged anything. So there's a completely free 7-day trial as well. And there's some free uses in there as well, even before you start the trial. So definitely check it out, WalterPicks, on the iOS App Store. I've spent I honestly don't know the number of hours at this point, but I guess it's over 25,000 hours of my life just building this app. David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs. I'd probably honestly go with David Montgomery, but both those guys I feel like are in such a similar tier for me. I don't love them. Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler. I would lean towards Austin Eckler, but it's close. They're both in good offenses, and I do think, how can I change best ball? Luffy, if I go to drafts here, like there's Best Ball Mania 2, and then there's the Puppy 2. This is the one I'm in right now, $5 entry. Then there's this one, $25 entry. This one's $250 entry. I'm not doing any of those. It's just these two. I think that's what you were asking. I'm not 100% sure. Oh no. Let's see. I have a lot of slow drafts going on right now, which is not good. I think this is the draft. Because I need to find this live draft I'm doing. All right, here we go. I'll do some of those slow draft picks in a second. All right, I have 5 wide receivers, 4 running backs. I'm doing a live YouTube best ball draft right now. If you aren't on the WalterPicks live YouTube, I don't know what you're waiting for, because we're doing a live draft right now on YouTube. A real draft, $5 on the line for me, and up to $300,000 I could win if all goes well. I think I'm going to go Jamal Williams here, honestly. There's been some DeAndre Swift injury concerns already, which is leading me to draft more and more Jamal Williams. Because worst case scenario for Jamal Williams is he takes the Jamal Williams role that he had last season for the Packers. Like, this is what was expected of him going into the season. He's going to see 40 to 50% of the carries for the Lions, a team that also has a top 10 offensive line. It's the only good part of their team. So I like Jamal Williams late in drafts. I just got him in the end of the 12th round as my last running back on this squad. I do think there's a lot of potential touches for these running backs that I'm drafting. I'm definitely going to need one more tight end and probably 2 more tight ends, and then probably the rest of my team will be receivers. I'm excited to get, honestly, either of these guys, Evan Ingram or Sterling Shepard. Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, not much stacking opportunity from here on out with those guys. What are your thoughts on ETN? I absolutely love him. I love him. I'm taking him in the 5th round pretty confidently, consistently in PPR leagues. I think his ceiling is just extraordinarily high. I think he has a very, very high ceiling. Randall Cobb really has shot up draft boards. I cannot get behind the Randall Cobb hype. I really can't. I think I like Gerald Everett more than Evan Ingram. But it's definitely close. I'm going to go Gerald Everett instead, though. Hopefully there's not a bye-week conflict. Nice. Get back to some of the questions in the chat, guys. And if you are watching live on YouTube, first of all, thank you for tuning in. It's been a fantastic live stream. I've had a lot of fun on this one. I've done 2 live drafts. Hopefully got to a lot of your questions. I'm trying to get to as many as I can. We got like 20 minutes left of the stream. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, we're going to be putting out consistent YouTube content this season. And we're going to be going live every single Sunday morning and before a lot of the primetime games this season. So make sure you subscribe. Turn on those notifications for YouTube. I do appreciate it. Najee Harris or Antonio Gibson. I would personally go with Antonio Gibson over Najee Harris in a PPR league. I think Antonio Gibson and honestly the Washington football team offense just has a much, much better offensive line than the Steelers. And honestly, Ryan Fitzpatrick in Fitzmagic is a little bit more trustworthy at the current moment than Big Ben, partially because of the offensive line. That being said, I would go Antonio Gibson over Najee Harris. I think it's close, though. I think both of them have league-winning upside. I think Antonio Gibson's league-winning upside is higher. That being said, though, is Big Ben the most slept-on quarterback this season? He almost is automatically slept on with how late he's being drafted. There's drafts. I'm doing 18-round drafts, and he is not getting picked in 18 full rounds. I'm seeing Tyrod Taylor getting drafted before Ben Roethlisberger. I'm seeing Andy Dalton getting drafted before Big Ben. It's insane. The quarterbacks, if we just go take a look at this. If you're watching live on YouTube and we look at this quarterback list, Derek Carr, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, all ahead of Big Ben. We will see in a lot of drafts Sam Darnold, Deshaun Watson, who might not even play this season, going ahead of Big Ben, Taysom Hill, Cam Newton, guys that also might not be a starter for every single game this season, going ahead of Big Ben. And then you look at the wide receivers Ben Roethlisberger has, and I know they're going to be a run-first team. It makes sense why he's getting drafted late. But this late, I feel like he's automatically valued. Wow. He goes in the 14th round, way ahead of ADP, right as I'm saying this segment, which is hilarious. But that's, definitely too early for him. But my point is, if there's 3 wide receivers going in the first 7 rounds, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson, how can they all do well and Big Ben still fail? I think at least one of those guys is probably going to underperform, but Big Ben seems like a pretty good last-round pick when he's there. Would I be dumb to draft Herbert, Allen, and Eckler? No, Will. I don't think that's terrible. I honestly probably just prefer one stack like that in the season-long league, like Herbert and Allen, or Herbert and Eckler, or Allen and Eckler. All 3 seems like a little bit too much to me, but it's not the end of the world because the Chargers are going to ball out. Justin Herbert's insane, so it's gonna be okay as long as they all have good seasons. It can work out, and you can definitely have some absolutely massive weeks with those 3. Drop Gronk for Crowder, have Kelsey. Yeah, definitely. Go drop Rob Gronkowski. Cameron Brate is back. O.J. Howard's almost back too. Gronk, they're going to do what they should do with Gronk. And what, honestly, the Patriots did with Gronk at the end of his career there. And Evan Ingram's still here, which is exactly why I took Gerald Everett, because I thought he might still be there. Let's go. So we're done drafting tight ends now, and we're focused on receivers for the rest of the draft. But they're going to have the Gronk strategy where you just ease him in throughout the season. He's not going to play more than half the snaps in any single game during the regular season. He's going to be a good run blocking tight end. He's probably going to be involved sometimes in the red zone, but he's going to chill in the nice weather in Florida. He's going to stay healthy, most importantly. And then the playoffs are going to come around, and Gronk's going to have an every down role, and they're going to coast to another Super Bowl. It's just like the Patriots did with Gronk, and just like the Bucs did with Gronk last season. So I don't love Gronk in fantasy. He's no chance he can be consistent on that offense. Jameson Crowder, on the other hand, Jameson Crowder is the stone cold best last round wide receiver you could possibly get in fantasy football. He's the every down slot wide receiver with the best quarterback he's ever played with in his entire career. And there's no more Adam Gase to weigh down the entire Jets offense. So yeah, I absolutely love Jameson Crowder this season in fantasy football. All right, I'm back on the clock here. Amon-Ra St. Brown has not made as much noise as I was hoping for in training camp. And I think I'm going to go with, honestly, Deshaun Jackson instead. And I'm just going to try to draft super high ceiling, boom and bust type players the rest of this roster with how it's constructed. It was definitely early on Deshaun Jackson there, but Deshaun Jackson is the starting outside receiver for the Rams right now. And by all reports, he's running at full speed, at full health. And I know it's not going to be surprising to anyone when, like, literally a few days from now, Deshaun Jackson, hamstring injury, we basically don't see him the whole season. But if he can just stay healthy, like, just through week 1, he could honestly be a good best ball pick with just 120-plus point week, which is what I'm hoping for when I take him. Someone said Bryan Edwards in all caps. Will, Bryan Edwards is one of the great late-round picks this season. There's been insane reports. They were comparing him to Terrell Owens and Randy Moss in training camp, which is just absolutely absurd that anyone would be compared to them. Like, even comparing a guy like A.J. Brown to those guys already is, like, kind of crazy. Bryan Edwards played, 3 games? Like, he was not fully healthy last season. He's an absolutely insane athlete on a team that is desperate for wide receivers, and he could easily supplant Henry Ruggs as the top receiver. And if you look at what they did this offseason, too, they let Nelson Aguilar, their top receiver from last season, walk, and then they brought in John Brown, who apparently hasn't had a great training camp. So, yeah, I like Bryan Edwards a lot. Travis Fulgham as a late-round flyer. Yeah, Jimmy, I've been seeing his name more and more than I would have expected this offseason. It seems like he's having a pretty good training camp. Also, Devonta Smith is injured, and there's some other injuries for the Eagles already. Why does this happen to the Eagles every season? Can they just stay healthy, like, for a training camp, for a preseason? Can they stay healthy for, like, the first month of the year? This happens. It's been like 3 or 4 straight seasons for the Eagles. Like, I feel for Eagles fans. Their offensive line just gets decimated every year. Their receivers just go down so fast. It's terrible. It's really terrible. But yeah, that's part of the reason I think Travis Fulgham has excelled this training camp. He could be worth a late round flyer. I would personally prefer both Bryan Edwards and Jameson Crowder over him, though. And if you look, like, he's deep down on this list, I think. Let's see. Yeah, he's still here. Travis Fulgham. He's getting picked like 210th overall. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is another very interesting, like, super late round guy. I think Andrew, if you're still here, our Falcons TikTok content creator. Sorry, I'm like stumbling over my words in the second hour of this live stream. The Olamide Zaccheaus is going to be the third wide receiver for the Falcons. It's going to be Calvin Ridley. It's going to be Russell Gage, and it's going to be Olamide Zaccheaus. And Kyle Pitts is, to me, like, basically the number 2 wide receiver on the team. But Zaccheaus is going to have some big weeks. So in best ball, yeah, I'm all for drafting him. I've drafted him a lot. I think he's going to have several wide receiver 2 weeks in him. Good luck predicting when those weeks are going to happen. So, like, I don't want him in a season-long fantasy league because I have no idea which weeks those are going to happen. And most of his weeks are probably going to be closer to 0 points than to 5 points. But he definitely will have some boom weeks. So that I do think you can feel good about him in best ball. Why do I only get 5 free uses on your app? Sam, this is a good question. I want to address this question. So there are certain things within the WalterPicks app which we have spent a lot of time on, and we pay a full team of developers to develop, to get it into the pristine status that it currently is in, that we need to charge for certain parts of the WalterPicks app. So we're going to give you free uses to start out. We want you to understand how the tool works before you pay. But also, if you do, I think I'm going in and out on the TikTok live stream, but also if you do subscribe to the WalterPicks app, which is only $5 a month, it's only $5 a month, you will get a free week. You get a full free week trial before you actually are charged anything. So it is the type of thing where you will know exactly what you're getting before you actually pay. So you'll get a full 7 weeks. Get a Drew Lock jersey. I don't know about that. I can keep Justin Herbert and he'd be a 12th round pick. Yeah or not? Yeah, definitely do that. I got TJ in the 10th round. That's an absolute steal. That's amazing. Good job. TJ Hawkinson in the 10th round is exactly why you should wait on tight ends. If you can get TJ Hawkinson in even the 5th round, I think you can make a good argument for just waiting on tight ends this season. What do you think about Dalvin, DK, AJ Brown, first 3 picks, 10-man PPR? I like that a lot. Yeah, honestly, you have, first of all, Dalvin Cook, top 2 running back in all fantasy football formats right now, and then you also have 2 wide receivers that can win you weeks. And there really aren't that many receivers like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Like, people, I think we trick ourselves into, like, feeling like there's a lot of sleeper wide receivers when in reality there's a lot of wide receivers that have good weeks but not consistently. And guys like Dalvin Cook and AJ Brown can have consistent boom weeks which is exactly what you want when you're spending a second and third round pick on them. I like that construction a lot. Running back, wide receiver, I think is a very strong start to fantasy drafts this year. If you can hit on just like one more running back later in your draft too, your team's going to be absolutely insane and very hard to beat. What are your thoughts on Superflex? Love it. I love Superflex. Honestly, in all of my leagues, I would prefer to just add another flex spot like in all of them. I'm going to go Olamide Zaccheaus here. Look at this. 3 straight boom bust wide receivers. I just need 1 or 2 wide receiver 1 weeks out of them, and this team can absolutely smash. Deshaun Jackson, Darius Slayton, Olamide Zaccheaus. All 3 could be starters week 1 for their given teams. Dalvin, Zeke, or Henry pick 3. Yeah, definitely Dalvin. I don't know who went pick 2, but Dalvin Cook should go pick 2. JT Worth a pick at 12 or 13. Honestly, I would prefer Aaron Jones. I would prefer Austin Eckler. I would prefer even Joe Mixon. I would prefer the top 5 wide receivers, which is Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and I'm definitely missing one. I know I'm missing one. Tyreek Hill, obviously. Tyreek Hill. So I would take all those guys ahead of Jonathan Taylor. If all those guys are gone, then yeah, you might want to think about Jonathan Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor, without the offensive line, there was concerns with Jonathan Taylor before the offensive line issues. Marlon Mack is healthy, and Nyheim Hines is going to be in on third downs. Where are you willing to draft Saquon? This is a very, very good question, because I was saying earlier in this live stream, I'd have the feeling that I'm going to have Saquon Barkley on so many of my teams this season, because when pick 7 rolls around, I'm going to talk myself into drafting Saquon Barkley at pick 7. I understand that he might not play the first 3 weeks of the season. I understand that he might not even, when he does play the first 3 weeks of the season, it might not be his full workload. But that's what I would prefer the Giants to do. Be cautious. Let him take his time in his recovery. He's going to be fully healthy by, week 5? Week 5 is, I think, a pessimistic, worst-case scenario. Saquon Barkley is 100% healthy. Week 5 of the NFL season. The most athletic human being I've ever seen put football pads on. And he's on my fantasy team at pick 7, in pick 8, pick 9, pick 10. He's going in pick 12, even the second round in some of the recent drafts I've been doing. So I just feel like I'm going to end up drafting him so frequently. And he definitely has a pretty scary floor. Like, if that worst case scenario happens, he misses the first 3 weeks, and now I lose 3 straight fantasy games, and he comes back, but he's not getting his full workload weeks 4 and weeks 5, and maybe I can scrape out 1 or 2 wins. But then he comes back, and I could literally win every single game for the rest of the season and win the fantasy football championship, which is what you're trying to do. You're not trying to come in second place. You're not trying to come in third place. You're trying to win the league. And that's exactly what drafting Saquon Barkley is all about. It's a similar reason we drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire last season, even though he didn't pan out. The ceiling was there. And the ceiling is there for Saquon Barkley to win leagues. So yeah, I feel like by pick 7, I'm going to talk myself into it. Have Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford, how do we feel? Yeah, I like both of them. Is the WalterPicks app more accurate than Yahoo and ESPN? Yes, it is, Sammy. It's been significantly more accurate than Yahoo and ESPN for 2 consecutive seasons, live seasons. Now, 2 straight consecutive seasons. It's been significantly more accurate, and it's because we leverage machine learning. It's because we filter the data better than anyone out there that filters data, and that's the main thing about data analysis. It's the data you feed into the model, and then also having a good model. So yeah, we have been more accurate than ESPN and Yahoo using Walter, our artificially intelligent algorithm, over the last 2 seasons. Who with pick 3? Dalvin, Zeke, Henry. Yeah, I would take Dalvin with pick 3. I would take Dalvin with pick 2. Would you rather Kamara and Dak or Mahomes, Eckler, 2 QB, half PPR league? I would probably rather Mahomes and Eckler there. Honestly, I think there's such a good chance that Alvin Kamara, and Austin Eckler just aren't that much different for fantasy purposes this season. All right, let's take a look here with my last pick. Quintus Cephas is going so late now. I feel like I'm going to go with Anthony Miller again. I've been drafting him probably too much, but the talent is there, and there's really not that much competition for him. And that is a wrap with this squad. We end up with Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow as my 2 QBs. Derrick Henry, Naji Harris, Damian Harris. I got the 2 Harrises, and Jamal Williams as my 4 running backs. Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, Odell, Antonio Brown, Elijah Moore, and then just a lot of upside wide receivers at the end. I think I drafted 3 tight ends too: Evan Ingram, Dallas Goedert, and Gerald Everett. All right, guys, that is a wrap for me. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the live YouTube. We will be back live on Thursday. I've already scheduled it ahead of time, actually, on TikTok. So make sure you register for that event on TikTok. We've had our first TikTok creator in less than 2 weeks past 1,000 followers, which means they're going to be able to join me on the live stream. And it is our Patriots.WalterPicks TikTok content creator, Pat himself. His name is Pat, and he's the Patriots content creator. It's literally perfect. Pumped to talk to him on Thursday before the first preseason game starts, so make sure you tune in then. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic rest of your day. As always, guys, we will be wrapping up. We will be wrapping up the live stream on YouTube just a few minutes after we wrap up the live stream on TikTok, so I can get to all of your questions before we wrap out. Seriously, I appreciate you all subscribing to the YouTube. We're nearing 3,000 YouTube subscribers, which is super, super exciting. And I am setting a ambitious goal because I know we can hit it. 10,000 YouTube subscribers by the end of the season. But I will, of course, always try to answer all your questions. Who should I draft first in an 8-man league? Pick 4. In pick 4, you're looking at, I think if it's a PPR league, Alvin Kamara. If it's not a PPR league, then it's Derrick Henry or it's Zeke. PPR, you did say PPR. Yeah, go for Alvin Kamara. How do you feel about a Lance Sermon Ayuk stack in Dynasty? Josh Love, that's a fantastic stack. Trey Lance, the thing about Trey Lance in Dynasty too, Trey Lance is going to start the season. Like I'm convinced he's going to start the season. He's too tantalizing for Kyle Shanahan not to start him, and we just have such a long track record of the coaching staff and the general management for the 49ers wanting to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. So, like, it's not going to be surprising when that happens soon. So, yeah, anything to do with Trey Lance in Dynasty, I'm all about. Darren Waller or Allen Robinson in PPR Keeper League. By the way, I'll pull up my exposure here just so there's something kind of displaying while we wrap this up. Quintez Cephas is somehow my most drafted player. Of course, Devonta Smith is high up there. Honestly, my top guys on this list are not what I would hope at this point of the year. But this is because I drafted so much starting early in the offseason. Thoughts on Brandon Ayuk and Trey Sermon? Yeah, I think Ayuka the Bazooka is like a fantastic receiver, and I won't be surprised at all if he balls out. But once Trey Lance wins the starting job, I'm pretty concerned about Lance. I'm pretty concerned about Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Kittle. Like, there's no way all three of them are going to sustain consistent fantasy points with Trey Lance. It's just going to be such a run for his team. Are you doing normal drafts live anytime soon, Miles? My legit drafts start in not that long, like 2 weeks from now. So yeah, I will be. I don't think I'll be live streaming them, but I'll definitely talk about them after they happen. I'm doing a bunch of drafts in person this year, which is exciting. I missed that. It's like my favorite part of fantasy football is seeing these different groups of friends I have from my different fantasy leagues. Thoughts on second and third round pick if you have 1.01? Yeah, Carter, I got Naji Harris and Clyde Edwards-Helaire from that spot like 2 days ago, which I think is absolute money if either of those guys are there. If not, go wide receiver. Like, you have your first running back locked in. You can still get guys like DK Metcalf, guys like A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. Like, those guys will be there, and there's less wide receivers like those wide receivers than you think. Should I trade away my first and third rounder for Derrick Henry when I already have CMC? I don't have a second and fourth rounder already. No, it depends when your first round pick is. I mean, like, who's available in the first round if Derrick Henry's already gone? I'm not really sure I have the full context there, Shazuto, but generally speaking, I like to trade back in drafts, not up. I like to trade back and acquire more picks so that I can be the first person to finish my starting lineup. I like being the first guy to finish my starting lineup. To me, I feel like that's an advantageous thing, especially if I can do it by round 6, because there is a pretty big drop-off after, like, the mid-tier guys to, like, the last-round picks. So I do like to trade back. What do you think about Dalvin, DK, AJ Brown, Josh Jacobs, ETN, Kyler, 10-man PPR? Yeah, I like it. Only guy I don't like there is Josh Jacobs, but I could definitely be proven wrong there. You were answering Darren Waller or Allen Robinson in Keeper League, but then I got distracted. I would keep Darren Waller over Allen Robinson, but it's definitely close. And there is an injury going on with Darren Waller right now, so definitely keep monitoring that. And I wouldn't make the decision until you know for sure about the injury. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll be back live on Thursday, I think around 5 p.m. Eastern. And we'll be live on TikTok and YouTube. And I'll be live with, maybe actually it might just be TikTok, but I'll be live with one of our TikTok creators, the first one to pass 1,000 followers. Pumped to have him on and talk about Patriots and other things fantasy football related. Have a good one, guys.